3 years ago, I thought love was enough to survive anything. I was wrong. Ethan, we need to talk, Madison said quietly as she stood beside the apartment window. The moment I heard those words, my chest tightened. Why do you sound like you're saying goodbye? She crossed her arms. Because maybe I am. I stared at her. What does that mean? It means I'm tired, she replied. I'm tired of struggling every month. I forced a smile. I know things are hard now, but my architecture career is growing. Just give me time. Time, she asked bitterly. Ethan, we've been together for 4 years. Because I love you. She looked away. Love isn't always enough. My stomach dropped. There's someone else, isn't there? She stayed silent. That silence hurt more than any answer. Who is he? I asked. Trevor Blake. The name hit me like a hammer. Everyone knew Trevor. Luxury cars. Expensive suits. Endless money. You're leaving me for him? She exhaled slowly. He can give me the life I want. I laughed weakly. And I can't. You can't. Not now. Not now isn't forever. She shook her head. I don't want to wait forever. I felt my hands tremble. Madison, we planned our future together. I know. We talked about marriage. I know. We talked about children. Her eyes softened briefly. I know. Then how can you walk away? She looked directly at me and said words that haunted me for years. Love doesn't pay bills, Ethan. The world went silent. I remember standing there, unable to breathe, while everything I imagined shattered in front of me. Was any of it real? I whispered. She hesitated. It was. Then stay. I can't. Or you won't. Her silence answered me. I swallowed hard. If I become successful one day, will you regret this? She picked up her bag. Success changes people. Then she left. The sound of that closing door echoed inside me long after she disappeared. For weeks, I barely functioned. I worked during the day and stared at the ceiling every night. One evening, my sister Olivia knocked on my door. Ethan, open up. I'm fine, I lied. You sound terrible. I opened the door reluctantly. Olivia stepped inside and frowned. Have you eaten? I'm not hungry. You said that yesterday. I said I'm fine. She sighed. Stop pretending. I sat on the couch. Maybe Madison was right. Her expression hardened. Don't say that. She left because I failed. No, Olivia said firmly. She left because she made a choice. If I had more money. No, she interrupted. You're not responsible for someone else's decision. I rubbed my face. Then why does it feel like I lost everything? She sat beside me. Because you didn't just lose her. What do you mean? You lost the future you imagined. Her words struck me deeply because they were true. The hardest part wasn't losing Madison. It was losing the life I thought we would build together. A few days later, my best friend Liam dragged me out for coffee. You look terrible, he said immediately. Thanks. I'm serious. You need help. I'll survive. He leaned forward. Stop chasing someone who already walked away. I'm not chasing her. He raised an eyebrow. Really? I looked down. He sighed. Ethan, listen carefully. If someone leaves when life gets hard, they'll leave again. That's easy for you to say. No, he replied. It's hard for me to watch you destroy yourself. I stared into my coffee. What should I do? I asked quietly. Build your future. Without her. Especially without her. Those words stayed with me. The months that followed became a battlefield. I accepted difficult projects. I worked late nights. I learned new skills. Every rejection became fuel. Every painful memory became motivation. Some nights I wanted to give up. Other nights, I remembered her words. Love doesn't pay bills, Ethan. Instead of breaking me, those words slowly changed me. A year passed. My designs improved. My confidence returned. I wasn't rich, but I was becoming stronger. One evening, I stood alone outside my office and looked at the city lights. The old Ethan would have waited for Madison. The new Ethan understood something different. Love mattered, but self-respect mattered too. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, never again. I would never beg someone to stay. I would never measure my worth through another person's choices. Most importantly, I would never stop building my own future. That night, I made myself a promise. If Madison Reed ever returned, she wouldn't meet the broken man she left behind. She would meet someone entirely different. I went home after making that promise, stood in front of the mirror, and barely recognized myself. Who are you now? I asked my reflection. For the first time in months, I had an answer. I'm still here. The pain hadn't disappeared. The memories still hurt. Some mornings I still reached for my phone before remembering she was gone. Some nights I still wondered whether she ever thought about me. But healing isn't a straight road. It's messy. It's slow. And sometimes it feels impossible. Even so, I kept moving forward. Olivia called me that night. How are you feeling? She asked. Better, I answered honestly. She laughed softly. That's the first honest answer you've given me in months. Maybe I'm finally learning. Learning what? I smiled faintly. That losing someone doesn't mean losing myself. She grew quiet before saying, I'm proud of you. Those words meant more than she realized. As I looked out my window, I understood something important. Madison ended one chapter of my life, but she didn't get to write the rest of my story. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know whether success, love, or heartbreak waited ahead. But for the first time since she left, I stopped looking backward. I turned around, faced tomorrow, and decided my life would finally belong to me completely. 3 years changed everything. If someone had told me back then that heartbreak would become the foundation of my future, I would have laughed. Yet there I was, an accomplished architect with my own apartment overlooking the city skyline. Life finally felt peaceful. One evening, Liam sat across from me in my living room, holding a cup of coffee. You know, he said with a grin, Madison accidentally became your greatest teacher. I laughed. That's a strange way to put it. I'm serious, he replied. Before she left, you worked hard. After she left, you became unstoppable. That sounds unhealthy. He shrugged. Maybe, but look at you now. I looked around my apartment. 3 years earlier, I had barely paid rent. Now I own this place. Life's strange, I admitted. Liam smirked. If Madison saw you now, she'd regret everything. I shook my head. Maybe, maybe not. You don't care anymore? I thought for a moment. I don't know. He raised an eyebrow. That means you definitely don't care anymore. I laughed softly. Perhaps he was right. The pain that once controlled my life had faded into memory. Not erased, just distant. After Liam left, I stood near the window and watched city lights stretch endlessly into the night. My phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello. Silence. Then a voice spoke. Ethan. The moment I heard it, time seemed to pause. It's Madison. My chest tightened slightly. Not from pain. Not from love. Only surprise. 3 years. After 3 years. I remained silent. Ethan, she asked quietly. Yes. Her breathing trembled. I didn't know if you'd answer. I almost didn't. Another silence followed. Her voice sounded different. Smaller. Fragile. Nothing like the confident woman who once walked away from me without looking back. How have you been? She asked. The question felt strange, as though we were strangers discussing the weather. I'm doing well. I heard your architecture company is successful now. I frowned. Who told you? I still know people. Of course she did. Our lives once overlapped. Some connections never fully disappear. That's true, I replied. I'm happy for you. Thank you. The conversation felt awkward, empty. Years ago, hearing her voice would have shattered me. Now I simply stood there, calm. She inhaled deeply. Ethan, there's something I need to say. I waited. I made a mistake. The words hung heavily in the air. I want us back. I stared at the city lights outside my window. Cars moved below. People continued living their lives. The world remained unchanged. Yet 3 years ago, those words would have meant everything to me. Now they felt strangely distant. I spoke before I could stop myself. Who are you? The line went silent. Even I was surprised by my question. Her breathing became uneven. Ethan. No, I said quietly. Who are you? She didn't answer. I continued. The woman I loved disappeared 3 years ago. Her voice cracked. Please don't say that. Why not? I was young. We were the same age. I was foolish. You made a choice. She began crying softly. Hearing her cry once would have broken my heart. Now it only made me feel tired. I thought money would solve everything, she whispered. I closed my eyes. 3 years ago, Those words haunted me endlessly. Now they carried no power. What happened? I asked. She hesitated. Then the story unfolded. Trevor lost his business last year. I listened quietly. Investments failed. Debts piled up. Everything collapsed. And then he changed. Her voice trembled. He became angry all the time. I remained silent. One day he left. Left? Yes. She sniffled. He said he needed a fresh start. The irony almost made me laugh. Years ago, she left me for wealth. Now wealth had left her. I lost everything, she whispered. Her words carried genuine pain. But pain alone doesn't rewrite history. I remembered you, she said. I looked out the window again. The younger version of me would have waited endlessly for this moment. But that version no longer existed. Why now? I asked. Because I realized you truly loved me. The sentence hit differently than she expected. Not as comfort, not as victory, only sadness. Madison, I said gently, you realize that after losing everything? She cried harder. I know how it sounds. Yes, I replied. You do. I was wrong. I know. Can you forgive me? I thought carefully. Surprisingly, the answer came easily. I already forgave you years ago. Her breathing stopped. Then, can we try again? I closed my eyes. Memories flashed through my mind. Late-night dreams. Share plans. Promises of forever. But memories are not people. People change. Sometimes so much that they become strangers. No, I answered softly. The word felt peaceful. Not cruel. Not angry. Simply true. Why? She whispered. Because I no longer recognized her. Because the woman I loved existed only in memories. Because love without trust is only nostalgia. I took a slow breath. The person I loved doesn't exist anymore. Silence. Heavy. Painful. Final. She whispered through tears, I still love you. I looked at the reflection in my window. 3 years ago, I would have sacrificed everything for those words. Tonight, they felt like echoes from another life. Maybe you do, I said quietly. But I'm not the same man you left behind. Her crying grew softer. I'm sorry, Ethan. For the first time, I truly believed she meant it. I know, I replied. After another long silence, the call ended. I stood alone beneath the city lights. 3 years ago, losing Madison had broken me. Tonight, hearing her voice taught me something unexpected. Healing isn't when the pain disappears. Healing is when the past knocks on your door and you no longer wish to open it. The weeks after Madison's call passed more quietly than I expected. Or at least they would have if she had stopped reaching out. Every few days, another message appeared on my phone. Can we talk? I just want to explain. Please, Ethan. At first, I ignored them. Not out of anger. I simply didn't know what was left to say. One evening, Liam noticed me staring at my screen. She again? He asked. I nodded. How many messages now? I stopped counting. He leaned back in his chair. Block her. I thought about it. But, I sighed. Part of me still wants answers. Liam raised an eyebrow. Careful. Curiosity opens doors that should stay closed. Maybe. He pointed at me. Remember who spent months staring at ceilings after she left? I remember. Good. Don't forget. His warning stayed with me. Yet curiosity has a strange power. Eventually, I replied. One message. One sentence. Let's meet and talk. Her response came immediately. Thank you. We agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown. The same cafe where we once spent hours dreaming about impossible futures. The irony wasn't lost on me. When I arrived, she was already there. For a moment, I barely recognized her. Madison looked different. Not older. Just tired. Her confidence had faded. The bright ambition that once filled her eyes had been replaced by exhaustion. She stood slowly. Hi, Ethan. Hi. An awkward silence followed. Years ago, conversation between us flowed effortlessly. Now it felt like speaking to a stranger wearing familiar features. We sat across from each other. She lowered her gaze. Thank you for coming. I was curious. She gave a sad smile. Curious about what? What happened to you? Her expression tightened. I deserve that. The waitress brought coffee. Neither of us touched it. Madison folded her hands together. Trevor wasn't who I thought he was. I remained quiet. She continued. At first, everything seemed perfect. The cars. She nodded weakly. The trips. Another nod. The luxury? Yes. Then her voice cracked. But none of it mattered. I watched her carefully. What changed? Everything. She looked out the window. At first, Trevor was charming. And later, he became controlling. My expression shifted slightly. How controlling? She laughed bitterly. What I wore. She paused. Who I talked to. Another pause. Where I went. The sadness in her voice felt genuine. I lost myself, she whispered. I said nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because part of me remembered another truth. I had once lost myself too. After she left, she stared at her untouched coffee. When his business started failing, things became worse. Ow! He blamed everyone. Her eyes filled with tears. Mostly me. I remained silent. One day, he packed his bags and left. Just like that. She nodded. Just like that. The irony returned. 3 years ago, she walked away from me. Now someone else had done the same to her. I thought money would make me happy, she whispered. Her voice barely reached me. I was wrong. Those words stirred something inside me. Not satisfaction, not revenge, only sadness. Because once upon a time, I had loved her deeply. A part of me still remembered our happier days. Late-night walks, shared dreams, plans for a future that never happened. But another part remembered different nights. Nights spent alone. Nights filled with silence. Nights when I questioned my worth. I looked at her and realized both versions of our story were true. The good memories existed. So did the pain. Do you hate me? She asked quietly. The question surprised me. I thought carefully before answering. No. Her eyes widened. No, I don't hate you. She stared at me as though she didn't understand. Then why does this feel worse? I frowned. Worse than what? Rejection. Her voice trembled. If you hated me, at least I'd know you still cared. Her words lingered in the air. And suddenly I understood. She wasn't afraid of anger. She was afraid of indifference. After he left the cafe, I returned to work. Later that afternoon, my coworker Sophia Miller noticed my distraction. You look thoughtful, she said. Old memories. She sat beside me. Good memories or painful ones? Both. Sophia nodded knowingly. Someone came back into your life? I stared at her. How did you know? She smiled. Your face says everything. I laughed softly. It's complicated. They usually are. I hesitated before asking. Do you think forgiveness means giving someone another chance? Sophia shook her head immediately. No. Forgiveness and reconciliation aren't the same thing. Her words caught my attention. You can forgive someone, she continued, without reopening the door they closed. I leaned back in my chair. That sentence stayed with me. Because she was right. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. It simply frees you from carrying anger. Days passed. Madison still messaged occasionally. But something had changed. She noticed it too. I wasn't cold. I wasn't angry. I simply wasn't waiting anymore. One evening, she called unexpectedly. Ethan, yes. Her voice sounded fragile. Why aren't you angry? The question caught me off guard. Because I spent years healing. She grew quiet. I thought you'd hate me forever. I thought so too. Then what am I to you now? I looked at the city lights outside my apartment. The answer came easier than expected. A chapter of my life. Silence. Painful silence. The kind that carries truth no one wants to hear. She began crying softly. And for the first time, I think she finally understood. People don't always lose love in a single moment. Sometimes it disappears slowly. One disappointment. One broken promise. One lonely night at a time. Until one day, they look at someone they once loved and realize nothing remains. And perhaps that frightened Madison more than rejection ever could. Months passed, and life kept moving forward. That surprised me more than anything. For a long time, I believed heartbreak was something people carried forever. I was wrong. Some wounds don't disappear. They simply stop controlling your life. My career continued growing. New projects arrived almost every month, and my team trusted my designs more than ever before. One afternoon, Sophia walked into my office carrying 2 cups of coffee. You've been staring at blueprints for 3 hours, she said. I smiled. Occupational hazard. She handed me a cup. Take a break. You sound like Olivia. That means your sister is smart. I laughed. She definitely agrees with you. Sophia sat across from me. Big project. The biggest one this year. She raised an eyebrow. Nervous? A little. She smiled warmly. You'll do great. Simple words. Yet somehow, they carried comfort. That was the strange thing about Sophia. She never tried to fix me. She never treated me like a broken man. Instead, she met the version of me that emerged after everything fell apart. One evening, after work, we walked through downtown together. She looked at the sunset and asked, "Do you ever think about the past?" Sometimes. And I thought carefully. It feels distant now. She nodded. That's usually a good sign. What is? Healing. I looked at her. You always have answers. She laughed softly. Not always. Most of the time. She shook her head. People heal themselves. Others just remind them they can. Her words stayed with me long after that conversation ended. Life had become peaceful. Not perfect, but peaceful. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Madison. Can we meet one last time before I leave the city? I stared at the screen for several minutes. Finally, I replied, okay. We agreed to meet at a quiet park. Autumn had painted the trees gold and red. Leaves drifted gently across the ground as I approached a bench near the walking path. Madison was already there. She stood when she saw me. Hi, Ethan. Hi. She looked different again. Not defeated like before. Just tired. The kind of tired that comes from learning difficult lessons. We sat quietly beneath the falling leaves. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she finally broke the silence. I'm moving next week. To another city? She nodded. A fresh start. I looked ahead. That sound good. She gave a small smile. I hope so. The wind carried leaves past our feet. After a long pause, she whispered, I owe you an apology. I remained silent. She took a deep breath. I was selfish. Her voice trembled. I thought success meant money. She looked down. I thought love would always wait for me. Tears gathered in her eyes. And I hurt the person who loved me most. Her words carried no excuses, only regret. If I could go back, she said softly, I would choose differently. I believed her. That was the surprising part. I truly believed she meant every word. But truth arrives too late sometimes. Some choices cannot be undone. She looked at me with hope and sadness mixed together. Do you ever wish things had been different? I thought about the question. The younger version of me would have answered immediately. The man sitting on that bench needed time. Finally, I spoke. Sometimes. Her eyes brightened slightly. But wishing doesn't change reality. The light in her expression faded. She nodded slowly. I know. We sat quietly again. The park felt peaceful. Children laughed in the distance. A dog ran across the grass. Life continued moving forward, just as it always does. Madison wiped her eyes. Did you ever hate me? No. She looked surprised. Not even after everything. I was hurt, I admitted. But hate takes energy. And now? I smiled gently. Now I'm at peace. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Not because I rejected her. Because she finally understood something painful. I wasn't waiting anymore. I looked at her and said the words she needed to hear. The man you left behind loved you deeply. Her breathing caught. But he doesn't exist anymore. She closed her eyes. More tears followed. And in that moment, I saw understanding in her expression. Not denial. Not hope. Understanding. She hadn't lost me when she made that phone call months ago. She lost me years earlier. The day she walked away. The truth hurt both of us. But truth often does. After a while, she stood from the bench. I'm glad you found happiness, she said quietly. Thank you. She hesitated. Is Sophia important to you? I smiled before answering. Yes. The answer seemed to bring both sadness and relief to her eyes. She's lucky, Madison whispered. I shook my head. No, we're both lucky. She nodded slowly. For the first time in years, there was no anger between us. Only acceptance. She extended her hand. Goodbye, Ethan. I looked at it for a moment before shaking it. Goodbye, Madison. Then she turned and walked away. I watched her disappear down the path, lined with autumn leaves. The strange thing was that I felt nothing heavy in my chest. No bitterness. No regret. Only peace. Because closure isn't always about revenge. Sometimes it comes from growth. Sometimes it comes from becoming someone your past can no longer reach. Years earlier, I thought winning meant proving Madison wrong. Now I understood something different. Real victory wasn't wealth, success, or recognition. It was waking up without anger. It was building a life that no longer depended on old memories. The broken man who once questioned his worth had disappeared long ago. In his place stood someone stronger, calmer, and whole. Heartbreak had changed me forever, but for the first time, I was grateful for the lesson. As I left the park, my phone buzzed. A message from Sophia. Dinner tonight? I smiled. Absolutely. And I put my phone away and continued walking forward. This time, I never looked back.